when we moved back to Chicago. And when you co-teach with someone who you're that close with, you kind of get certain rapport back and forth. And first day, we're introducing ourselves, and I say Dr. Rich. My wife looks at me, there's goes, no way we're calling you doctor in this room. We've both been in grad school for the same amount of time. We're going, you have to have a better name than that. Humbling and proud experience, like many things we do in school. You kind of get used to it, you get comfortable, and get a chance to play and work together. And that's what Sunday school is all about, is how do we build community, build connections. And hopefully, we're going to look at digital learning today and how we can build connections and deepen our connections with our community, our parents, our students, and between our students. We got things and stuff going on. It's a beautiful thing. What I'd like to do is kind of, I've got a framework of the presentation here. I really want to hear about what your current role is, what kind of population you have, and what kind of digital connections you already have, so I can cater this more to your own experiences. So if we can just go around the room, and I'm going to pick on Ann, because Ann was my former educator when I was a student at Etz Chaim, and she will, I'm sure, have a couple funny stories for us as to me as a little rugrat running around at some point.
The best thing I can say is, any of those really squirrely kids in your school that you just want to strangle, be patient.
They grow up.
They grow up and be patient. So digitally, probably our most successful digital thing that we do is we have a pen pal program with kids in Renata, a suburb of Tel Aviv. And besides the kids on their own Skyping and emailing with each other and FaceTiming, FaceTime, we have our own website that we do class discussions. So the Israelis, actually this week we're going to put up our Tu B'Shvat. Next week we'll put up our Tu B'Shvat question. Something about the environment, and then the Israeli kids answer it, our kids answer it. They get to compare their answers, see, in essence what they do is they see how similar they all are to each other.
Very cool.
So we do some other digital things, but that's probably it.
So you have a two-way dialogue going with students at different.
It's two layers.
Yeah.
It's one-on-one, but then it's class to class also.
Very cool. And what's the tool you guys are using for the? Is it just on your website that they're doing that, or do you have a tool that you're using to chat with?
So I went to a NATE conference many years ago, and there was this guy there doing a presentation, and he had this website called My Jewish Spot. And I was just kind of formulating this project in my mind at the time. And I thought, wow, this could be cool. So I contacted the guy, and he happens to be in Southern Illinois. And I don't know, maybe your school do you use My VR Spot?
We do not.
Okay, are you familiar with what it is?
I'm getting the idea from what you're saying. So he's basically got a portal there.
He has a portal, and it's really, his portal is more for schools to use within the school, for the kids to be able to dialogue with the teacher and all. So that's what he was set up for. And he kind of wanted to see if he could do something with the Jewish community. And so I think I was his only bite on it. So he's given it to me for free all these years. And so that's our portal. Well, it was My Jewish Spot, and then he kind of got away from that because I was his only, quote, customer. Now it's My VR Spot.
And we're going to go through some tools today that allow us to do that and still be a little more public with those things, to hopefully encourage others to join in and be part of the dialogue, because building community is so very important.
So I wanted this to be, we started, this is our either 4th or 5th year doing it. And I wanted security. I didn't want, I wanted the parents to feel comfortable that we were having their kids on the internet doing this, that no one else was going to find this spot.
Exactly. And then we've got two tools today, one that will be more public, one that will be more private, that do very similar things that the kids might be using also outside of your location. And you're at Etz Chaim, and how many kids does Etz Chaim have now that you guys are servicing?
Now we're, in the low 300s now.
300?
So we were up and down.
That's what happens with populations.
Exactly.
I'm Alicia Gachman. I'm the Director of Formal Education at North Suburban Synagogue Bethel in Harlem Park. So my lower school which is pre-K through 7, has 180 kids,
Mhm.
and my high school has 80 kids.
Okay.
So altogether we have
250.
right, 250, and plus we have a preschool. So right now we have. I'm going to talk about devices as opposed to
Mhm.
I don't know URLs. So we have 3 smart boards in the building, which my teachers use quite frequently. They either put presentations or they import some kind of PowerPoint from someone else, and they or clips or YouTubes. So they use it quite a bit. And we have 12 iPads. So we are in the process of educating ourselves. So Mindigo is coming actually this Wednesday and one more time in February to teach the teachers about applications and then I would say a kind of a learning curve. Some of my teachers do a lot on technology. They bring their own iPads and they show kids things, and I mean constantly. And some of my other teachers are like in the middle or learning or novices and everything in between. So that's to learn and to implement it.
Absolutely. Have you connected Apple TVs to your projectors?
No.
That might be a cool thing to explore because you've got this investment in smart boards and projectors. Apple TVs will allow you to mirror whatever the kids have on their device or the iPads that you bought and things like that, and allow them to project it so that you might have a couple kids working on it, and then they don't have to go through the hookup dance and all of that. But it's a great way to get things up there. We actually, as a district, are moving away from smart boards and more to the Apple TVs because they're a lot cheaper. Yeah, they're a lot cheaper than anyone who has an iPhone or an iPad or a Mac can mirror right up. And so you might have a kid who's working on an app like Edu Creations that Mindy's been showing some people, and doing 2 or 3 kids doing it in small groups, and then they can show their work as opposed to the one person being attached to the board. And so then what we find is it's the next step, because what you're trying to do is get people involved in doing things. So it's a neat thing to explore. But I love where you guys are moving in that progression. And you got your pioneers and you've got your settlers that you're gonna have to help move down the river. And Emily, you said you were at Shir Hadash, isn't it? And how many kids are at Shir Hadash?
520 altogether. And we just bought our building next year, so we're thinking about making an investment in it. Really good, working with me also. We have, but the teachers bring their iPads and laptops, and then we have a old school projector that we use with our laptops. And our teachers are pretty good about doing that so far, so we just want to take it to the next.
And I'm seeing everybody here is on an Apple something except Linda. Maybe at some point, I'm assuming that that's an Apple something.
Yes.
At some point, I'll turn on Reflector that acts like an Apple TV and let you guys flip some of your stuff up there so you can get a feel for how that might work.
So how much is an Apple TV?
$100.
In Apple Store?
Yeah, you can order them online to Amazon or go to
If we
Costco.
don't have a smart board, I know it's diverting, but you said this is where people are going, so.
We are moving away. Smart boards are like $1,200 a piece.
Exactly, so we don't have any smart boards.
We are moving to, let's have a projector, let's put an Apple TV on it, and then kids
All you
and
need
parents
is
can
Apple
just
TV.
mirror, they get on the network and they just mirror up to the screen. And we'll practice today. We'll give us some small
Apple
group.
TV, like a device you buy to
It is
hook
a
up to
black
your
box
TV.
that is, and you just plug it into the HDMI port, or if you don't have an HDMI port, you get a little converter.
And
And
a TV.
you can plug
And
into
the
a TV
projector.
or the
And your
projector. Yeah, whatever is, we have it at home in our TV. You have one here?
So it's this. And it basically allows you to connect, right, your device to whatever your screen is. It could be any kind of screen.
If she had the Apple TV hooked up there, I wouldn't have had to wire it at all. I could have just hooked it up there and mirrored it and got off, and you could get on easily. And what we see with that, the neat thing is we're all trying to increase engagement, and we want kids to be doing this. And the challenge we find with smart boards, it was so cool. And I remember watching in elections, like all the TV companies found it at the same time. Look, I can make things move like this. Well, it's still one person to one device thing. She talked about having 12 iPads. There's a lot of power in 12 iPads, because if I can get 3 or 4 kids working together on one device, now they're having a conversation, now they're having dialogue. It's not about me. It's about what they're coming up with. And then if they can quickly get it up there, because this takes time. This is a dance over here. When we have it up there, and we can just say, can you steal the screen? They go in and they take it over the screen. They show their work. And what we find in our classes is that, to an example, a third grade writing thing I walked into, where the kids were doing some editing, and one kid was showing his work, and other kids are editing things because they're stealing their ideas, going this. And then I hear one kid across from going, you mean like this? Let me show you. He steals the screen, goes it, and shows where he's making those corrections. And that kid goes, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And all of a sudden, you have this dialogue going on that isn't centered around me, but because I'm able to keep working, because I'm able to have other people visually comment, it's a shared experience.
But everybody has to have an Apple product.
It works with Apple products, exactly. But since I was just looking around the room, and she had said she had 12 iPads, and so many kids have like an iPhone or iTouch, that all of a sudden you just get that working, and it's a very cheap solution to getting some of those things up there.
And if they don't have a projector, you could do it right on the TV screen.
Absolutely.
So you can just wheel a TV in the room and do it. You were asking about projector.
You know,
Right.
we have them on TVs and conference rooms, and it's a very inexpensive solution, because the little dongle things, these things, these are like $40 a piece on their own. If you get the one that attaches the projector, it works. It's a nice solution to it, and that's something as you're working with Mindy and you're talking about what your ecosystem is, because you're just at the beginning. That might be an elegant solution for some of your challenges. You're at a unique stage where you're starting to build up and look at how you want to expand. And it's a neat thing that we've been experimenting with a lot of success. Give me a little background on you and your school.
I worked in Blackstone Street Congregation by Shalom, and we have 279 kids, ranges kindergarten through 12. But 9 through 12, we've got one class going with 12 kids in it. So I'm not misrepresenting. As far as technology goes, the big project I've been working with on my faculty for the last year and a half is getting the teachers to work with Google Docs in order to make report cards. We have a number of kids, especially in the Hebrew school, where there's multiple teachers that are addressing a singular kid. And so in the past, it's been being directed by your iPhone.
Hey, yours was the first to go off, which feel good. Give me your first name again.
David.
David. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Calling twice.
It's important. It's good. So this helps me out because, as you can see, I want to steal some of your ideas and really connect them. I put this presentation together. I put a little tiny URL for it. You can just have it on your device. You can use it later on, and it's BJE Presentation. Are you all familiar with tiny URLs? It's when you take a really ridiculously long website address and say, how can I shorten it? There's a neat little website called tinyurl.com, and it lets you do those things. And I happen to like that one. I know there's a way to do a Google shortener too, but I've never figured it out. Bitly also does it, but it supports Libya because LY is Libya. So everyone has their little thing, tinyurl.com/BJE Presentation. So everybody has
//
Wait, so it's www.
BJE Prin, PRIN.
one.
Okay, so this I will take it to my senior
So you
comparison.
can put this on.
Oh, it's okay. So your presentation every day?
And what that will do is that will actually take you to iCloud and Apple, which is Apple's backbone, and that presentation's right out of iCloud. The nice thing is if you do have an iCloud account, you can make presentations online. And I find that the Apple one is a little more sophisticated than the Google one. And so just there's better templates and a few more things that you can do with it. So I want to start out with a quote from Douglas Adams. It actually comes in 3 parts. Anything that is in the world when you are born is normal and just a part of the way the world works. And I want you to think about what kind of technology was there when you were born.
Telephone.
Telephone, absolutely. Television, Yeah, you have to think about what kind of television. Was there a remote control to the television? Was it pre-cable TV? Was it post-cable TV?
Black and white.
And yeah,
The only one in this room that would say that.
The rabbit ears?
Black and white.
Yeah.
I remember most of we had dusty colors, if nothing else. Then we started with a quote from Douglas Adams here. Anything that was born in the world when you were born is normal and just part of the way the world works.
Test screens.
Test screens and also the
Thing that looked like this.
I never saw that, but I had the emergency broadcasting system practice once. That television came on at a certain hour and left at a certain time. Typewriters, the old Smith Coronas with the swinging piece.
And Minions.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah.
The smell of
The purple. A purple.
Purple on the fingers.
microfilm.
Yeah.
Ding. Well, not just slides, film strips. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah, 8 millimeter.
Anything that you're born, what's in the world when you're born is normally just part of the way the world works. And all of our teachers have this experience, and all of us have this experience, and all of our kids have this experience. That anything that's there that I can synthesize it right away. The next one, let me see if I can get this up. Anything that's invented between when you are 15 and 35 is new and exciting and revolutionary, and you can probably get a career in it. I remember sitting in school, this will date me very nicely, and that we would be programming the little logo turtle to go around and make its box. There were video games, the Atari came out, the Intellivision with its paddle came out. My wife likes the ColecoVision with the little Smurf game. These were all new and novel things. They were in the world, and people were already talking about you could go into programming. You could go and get a job in that. That you could go into these satellite things, and that might be a thing that you get a job in. That this is what's new and it's revolutionary, and you're going to be able to do this kind of a thing. And then finally, Douglas Adams comes in with this one. Anything invented after you turn 35 is against the natural order of things and should therefore go away. And a lot of our teachers feel this way. What are we going to do this? Why do we need to do anything with this? And I'm going to show you a little video. And in watching this video, I want you to realize it was made in 2007. I want you to think about it, watch it, and it's about digital learning, and recognize that it was made in 2007. Oops. Maybe. And let's go down. And a little cheat because it's not going to do my embedded videos really well. And yes, it did work this morning. While we wait for that to come up. That's one. I will come back to it. Instead, we will watch. Oh, there we go. Can we hear that? Is there volume on this thing?
Oh, yes.
It won't do it on the display for me, but it will do in the original video. Perfect. This will work. Edit for something. Is that big enough for you guys to see? What'd you guys see in there?
Well, I love that there's a bibliography. That's hysterical. Couldn't tell if they were, digital resources, but just the phrase bibliography.
Except that they were all writing on their little boards as opposed to.
Well, and there is a point for those little whiteboards for quick scribbles and things like that. That they're sometimes things, there is a moment for low tech and high tech, but it gets even deeper than that. What else what did you guys see?
A board they all were looking, or almost all.
Walk through middle school. There's something that happens there that all of us. Well, I didn't think that happens earlier, but walk through middle school and see what they look like when they can't do that. Imagine sitting in those chairs, and I remember the ones that, I hope they've improved from that study with the thing there. There's the metal and the thing. But think about how it is to sit for 6.5 hours or 3 hours on a Sunday morning in those chairs, or when you come home, you've gotten home from school, now you're going to go to school again. So you're going to be doing clocking 11 hours in one of those chairs? What's that experience? What is it that you're seeing that them think about doing?
Boredom.
How many, you have one disconnect. And what's the ultimate thing that we want with the kids that you have?
Engaged.
Engaged in connection. We want them to be, we do this for them to be part of the community. If they walk away with one thing from our Sunday school experiences, our Hebrew school experiences, our camp experiences, is for them to be part of our community for a lifetime. And we've got to find a way for them to connect. And that's what this video is about, is, dear God, do something to connect with me. And as I said, the thing that was interesting in there was made in 2007. And 2007 is going to be a really important year in a few minutes. In there, we saw the little iPod shuffle. We saw the headphones thing. We saw them mention digital storage time. We saw the big computers. They weren't silver like all computers are now because we followed the math. Apparently, they're this big heavy thing. We even saw a little like electric pen to do things that were all part of those things. That little blonde girl that looks like a kindergartner, at this point would be graduating high school this year. That little girl there that's holding up the sign at the end, she's a high school graduate. She's the ones that we're looking at right now, saying you're going to be our leaders for SYG. And those kinds of things, you know, how knowing in 8 years we could be so right, and yet we're not going to be able to know the tools. We're not going to be able to identify what set of technology. That's going to drive our teachers nuts. I don't know how to use this. How am I supposed to teach when I'm not comfortable with it? And by the time I get comfortable with it, they've moved on past it already. That's this problem we want to solve today. As I said, 2007 is a really important year. 2007 is the year June 18th, 2007, that my second child was born, Logan. In January of 2007, Steve Jobs got on stage at Macworld and showed us this phone that everybody said wasn't going to work, and it had this miraculous thing of slide to unlock. And he got up there and said, hey, you don't need a keyboard. You don't need a stylus. If you've got a stylus, you've done it wrong. We all had those little palm things and the great handwriting recognition stuff. But, yeah. And we got very comfortable with it. And he showed us we could do slide to unlock. And then we were going to have an internet with real pictures on it. Most of us avoided the internet on a phone, period, because why would you want to do it unless you're following your fantasy team? And the iPhone came out in June 29th, 2007. My son Logan has never lived in a world without an iPhone. His perception of the world is slide to unlock is a natural thing. And we watched 16-month-olds now grab their little iPhones and start playing with it off their parents' thing. In fact, made them crawl for it for the first time. The Amazon Kindle. There was a time when you'd go on vacation, you would take 15 pounds of books on a vacation. Then you discover that the Kindle, and you all of a sudden don't have to bring all, you can bring all of your books wherever you want to be reading. That was November of 2007. The ebook market started then. And now we look at it as a great distribution tool for books everywhere, especially when you're traveling. You're like, I can't carry all this with me. The iPad went on sale in April of 2010. And school districts like ours with 5,000 kids are looking at going one-to-one fully next year. Within 5 years of school systems moving in full directions. The Chromebook, 2011, Deerfield just went Chromebook all the way through in 2011. For school districts that also move at a very slow rate, we're talking about revolutionary things in revolutionary time frames because they change things. So when your teachers sit there and we feel like, how did this just happen to us? It did. It really just happened. And it makes a difference, and the technology is going to change. And when we put our one-to-one initiative through for our school district, we called it a one-to-one initiative because we were selecting iPad minis, which had been out for about 3 months. And we knew that by the time we bought the next group of things, that we may not even be buying iPads, that it might be something completely different. And we needed to just be prepared for that because we didn't want to have to sell the board every few years. This is what we're doing. When you started putting smart boards in, that was cutting edge. And here I am introducing you a way you can do it for $100 instead of $1,000. And it just didn't exist. By the way, all of our 6th grades, all of our 7th grades, all of our 8th grades have smart boards. And when they eventually die, I'm just not replacing them. But we made the investment too. It seemed like the thing to do, and that's what technology does to us. We have to work in a world with what is it that we want kids to learn and do? What is it that we value? And us be the experts in that. And then be open to them creating the products and engaging in ways that we wouldn't expect. That's where we want our teachers to be, is how do we create this atmosphere and be open to the ideas of you guys are going to take this wherever you want. Let the kids be the master of that. We're going to be master of setting up the learning. And that requires a few different things. They showed up the ideas of learning engagement. Whatever, wherever, whenever. Now I want you to take 2 minutes with your partner who's next to you and talk about some unusual products your teachers have allowed your kids to create in your building. Take 2 minutes and think about those unusual products that you've started to see break out. They don't have to be technological, they have to be unusual. Just take 2 or 3 minutes, talk to the person next to you about unusual products you've seen in your building.
That our kids are bringing in, or that we're bringing to the.
That your teachers are allowing your kids to create. It could be teacher-driven, that you're bringing to them, or the kids starting to hear the conversation and they're bringing back. So either direction.
Years ago, the rule was no on no phones. So that's. But it is yeah.
Okay. It's interesting to hear where you started and hear you guys brought, because you started with this terrific tale about encouraging your teachers to let the kids look up the facts on their devices, and the revolutionary change from we shall not allow pagers and other things and devices into the classroom of accept it. It's going to be here, and encouraging them to then use quizzes. But you bring up this idea of time. Tell me more about what you're seeing.
We have a curriculum that's about 16 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole lot of things that we have to hit. A lot of those things date back to 2,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so the meshing of electronic resources and 2,000-year-old data, it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening, and we're getting there. But it's almost like it is such a battle to have that balance of engagement and homework and material, and to try and bring those things together. And so we're here to hear you, the guru,
Mm-hmm.
enable us to do that. And I know that when I become more sophisticated to think about it, it's of course you use this to get here. I'm kind of there. It's just a lot of the traditional tools that I have that come from Jewish educational publishers, for example, they're just starting to turn the corner on that in a way that's effective. They've online learning communities and those kinds of resources. Those have been out for a couple of years, but they've been impediments rather than things that move my kids and my teachers forward. So.
And what is your number? What are your number one and number two goals with your kids?
Number one, give them the tools that they need to be engaged, functioning Jewish adults. Number two, make the synagogue or a bricks and mortar place be the home that they feel that building a community is where to go.
And I think you've hit on right there, that's a fundamental answer. In regular education and Jewish education, the same thing. We've got 20 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. We can never accomplish all of these things and get there. And I've been trying to work with my teachers for the last 16 years, 17 years. Let's just suck it up and say, realize we're not getting all 20 pounds. We're not going to do it. Instead, let's stop worrying about what we've covered and focus on what we can get them to learn. And do that well. And how do we engage them so that meaningfully, so that, as you said, to become a functional Jewish citizen, to feel real comfortable with what it means to be eventually as an adult in the Jewish world, where you're going to be a minority person and yet feel safe within these walls, within who you are, and that you're surrounded by community. And to do that isn't by stuffing more and more stuff into the bag, but letting you create and explore and be part of that community. And I think it is. It does start with accepting who they are, that they have those digital devices, and that they can use them, that that's part of their world. We noticed it, one of the units that we have is the Holocaust, and we have a guest speaker from the Holocaust Museum who comes in and talks a little bit about some of the experiences with our 5th graders and does it in an appropriate way. And 2 years ago, we made the jump to BYOD. And so the kids just naturally brought their devices into the Holocaust speaker's room like they would anything else. And there's a teacher who's in the back of the room, but they're just letting the person go. And at first he was a little scared, a little thing. He's like, why are they pulling this out? Then a kid goes, do you mean it's like this picture here when this was going on and Hitler's saying these things? And all of a sudden he noticed that the kids were using the devices to connect with what he was doing and to find more information. It wasn't guided. It wasn't choose to do this. It was have something powerful to speak on. And then all of a sudden they want more, and they were going to be active learners in that piece. You're starting to see it where we go, hey, who can find the answer? Eventually it's going to be what can the answers do they find and what can they create? That's where this whatever and wherever piece starts to come in. You're starting to say it's okay to bring your world into ours. We're not going to try to control this for you. Instead, we're going to accept who you are and try to bring that to us. Bring who you are into our community. That whatever piece, it would have been absolutely unacceptable 3 years ago in your world to be having those devices out. Now you're opening those doors. That's a really powerful way of starting to understand this. And we're always going to be balancing out, especially with our teachers who think they have to cover this, this, and this. I'd rather you do 3 things and do it well, and the kid to hold on to that project forever. Because they had that give me Luke Hasadim idea, and now you own that piece.
We've already kicked out 9 tenths of what we want for our students. Master. We're down to that 1/10, and I still feel that pressure. But that is going to be as our time availability shrinks, as there's a whole social Jewish piece here that where we strive for relevance, that this is part of the puzzle.
Well, I think it's not just striving for relevance. I think we want to strive for exceptionality. that we are not just something that's part of your life, but such a close-eye piece of it that you're going to keep coming back to it. And how do we create those things from the 10% that we get? What can we do to make sure that's what holds tight to you, that ends up being an anchor for you as a kid? And I think that's where we can bring some of the things here and some of the learning and meet them where they're at to have those exceptional experiences. And that's where I think learning and broadening our experiences through digital technologies can really make the difference. We're going to bring in some examples this time, and I will make sure, as I cater the February one, I will bring in some more live examples for you and some films of things that really fit some of that, because now I'm hearing exactly what you're looking for.
You know, I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
I think we all start with this idea of community,
Mhm.
and I think community, we want the community to be in the building, but at the same time, our kids are being so social in a virtual communities, right? So I know some of the tools you're bringing foster that, so that this time issue, we can bring them in the building, but we can also reach them outside. And I think you'll find that a lot of these tools, while the synagogue is still kind of the center, it broadens where the community can be and how they can connect ongoing. So I think these tools kind of have that nice way of, you start here, but we can still be a community even as we're farther and farther away from that physical place. Yeah.
I think part of the challenge is, when we talk about community, what do we mean?
True.
And as that virtual identity among all of our population, including parents, as that identity matures, what does that mean for what it means to be Jewish and how that works? It's really big stuff.
And can you tell us about your tile wall?
Yeah, so we did a big renovation of the building. We added on quite a bit of space to the building. So we were out of the building for about a year and a half, out of most of the building. We had been renting space at a Catholic school on Sunday mornings, and for this year and a half, we had everybody over in another building, over at the Catholic school, just for school. We were able to use our social hall, so people still were in the building for short periods of time, but not for school. So when we brought everybody back, we wanted to do something to get everybody excited and do something that would be something permanent in the building. So I had the idea of having each, and I must say it was not my idea. I'd actually seen the idea originally at Temple Sholem. And since then, Temple Jeremiah has done the same thing. So I think there are at least 3 of us that have these similar tile walls. But I want to give Cookie Gross the credit for having, I believe, done the first one. So we had families come like over 3 different Sundays, and we moved back in the building in January. It was January of '99. And so I had this little shop that does the tile things or ceramics. And so every family came. They had the option. It cost everybody $18. So we really made no money on it. I think that's what they charged us, was $18 just for the tiles. But I wasn't doing it as a fundraiser. So families came, and as a family, they had to come with a design, like what Epps Chaim, or what did they want to be up on our wall that would be there forever. And so people created over 3 different Sundays. People came, they created their tiles, and then when they were done and I got them all back, I thought, oh, we need to do something cool with these. I mean, they were gorgeous. And, cookies were just all in a great big rectangle, and it had a wood frame around it with the scrolls on the end. And I think Jeremiah's looks like that now too. But I thought, I need to do something a little different. And at that point, I called Roy. I think he might have been in college. I'm sure he was in college. Maybe he was even just out of college. But he was very into his woodworking days. And I
Where's
said,
my middle?
the middle brother, the middle rich child. And so I said, here's what I want to do. And I said, but I want it to look like a Torah, but can we make it so that, represents the 5 books? I said, I'm not quite sure what. And he came up with this design. I wish I had a picture of it. It's gorgeous. And it is, he made it so that there is the frame and there are the Epsaim sticking out on the tops, on the sides. But he divided it into 5 sections. I don't know how many people think in terms of that as being the 5 books. I know that's what it is. And then in the very center of the one in the middle, he made a wooden plaque that says, Etz Haim Hiyamah Zikim Ba. It's the tree of life to those who hold fast to it. And I think that's it. And the rest were just the tiles. And people still walk in the building and love seeing it. But people that their tile is up there, kids that have come back as grown-ups, always go and look at their tile. Like there's certain ones I know who did it because their kids are constantly, it was in '99, so it was 16 years ago. So the kids that did this
Are having kids eventually.
Yeah.
The older ones are.
Right. So it's very cool, and for those families that made the tiles, it was very empowering.
The reason I had to bring up is not because it's a story of my brother. I was actually out of the state at the time.
Right.
But it's a story of when we get kids to create, we build that community. The creating of the tiles, that forever builds that connection back to us. So the question is, how do we get them to create more and more so that they own more and more? And that's where we want to get to as we start to redefine our learning experiences and think about and get our teachers thinking about is, how do I get the kids to create and think all the time? Where I may give them 1/10 of the information, but because they're actively exploring, they're actively having to create something out of it, they're going to go get the other 90% or 70% of it, and they're going to own the experience. And technology can help us do that. And sometimes it's low tech, sometimes it's high tech, sometimes it's medium tech, sometimes it's no tech. But how do we redefine that experience so we get them in the act of creating so that they're going to own the experience, whether it's virtually here or physically here, that they're going to have that connection to us as a congregation. That's the bottom line. And that's what we want out of some of these experiences. And that's what we want to generate, whether there's a blizzard and we can't all be within the sanctuary walls or not. That's how we want to get those things conversations going. And that's what we want to do. Why are they doing so much in Instagram? They're creating a shop every single time, and they're sharing it with an audience. As crazy as the duck face is that they're doing, that's what's going on, and that's where we start to capture. Sammer is something I know Mindy has introduced into some of her presentations. This is a student film using Powtoon to kind of explain what Sammer is, and it's a way to think about learning. And I think it's something I've been sharing with you, so hopefully you'll start to share it with your teachers, not to think about technology, but to think about how we're going about our learning to move more to this activity of creation. I'm going to press the button here. If not, I'm going to then hit escape and press a different one and try to play it that way.
We all know that using technology in school can help students learn. How can our teachers reflect on how effectively they're using technology?
Well, that's what this model is for, the Sammer model. It's kind of like a Bloom's taxonomy for educators.
It was created by this guy, Dr. Ruben Fuentedora, who believes that using technology allows us to
It's only coming out of his computer. It's not coming out of the smartphone.
I unplugged it because it wasn't working earlier.
There's 4 different levels and 2 different sections of Sammer.
Let's take a look at the first level, substitution.
This is where the technology used acts as a direct substitute. Let's take the task of persuasive essay writing. I could write an essay by hand, or I could type an essay using the basic features of a word processing program.
The task is the same, and there's no functional change. The technology is being used as a substitute.
Lots of teachers start out at this level, but don't worry, because substitution is not a bad thing.
Even the best teachers visit this level from time to time.
The next level is called augmentation. is where the task is still the same, but the tech allows for some sort of functional improvement. So instead of writing a persuasive essay on paper, you can use a program like Google Docs.
With this software, the task is still the same, but the unique features of a collaborative document provide some functional improvement.
In both these levels, the technology is used to simply enhance a lesson. This technology may make tasks more efficient, but it's not likely to make a big difference in future outcomes. Most learning takes place above the line, and it starts with modification.
Here, the technology is used to provide a significant task redesign.
So instead of simply writing an essay, a student can publish a WordPress blog using text, embedded videos, pictures, and other web links to convey their argument. The audience is no longer just the teacher either.
It's the entire world.
People from anywhere with an internet connection could review or comment on their writing, allowing for deeper analysis.
The final level of the ultimate goal of technology integration is redefinition.
Here, the technology allows for the creation of new tasks that were previously inconceivable. Instead of writing that essay, students could now create and publish a digital storytelling project to argue their writing with multimedia.
Plus, just like the blog, you're publishing this movie to the world. It allows for other people to comment and analyze their message.
So the heart of the assignment is still the same, but the technology allows them to engage in a new, more involved task that's otherwise not possible.
At these levels, learning is transformed through the use of technology. When we are more engaged and involved, significant improvements
Or do you have, like Alicia does, a classroom full of iPads or Chromebooks or whatever?
What we do is we open up a bring your own device. So about 30% of our kids bring devices.
So what about the other 70%?
Our whole second goal is community, isn't it? We try to create situations where it wouldn't even be advantageous to have your own device there, that you want to be working together. You can't film the 10 plagues unless you have groups of people that want to be actors in your film. So having 10 devices doesn't help you. Having one device that 6 or 7 kids are doing does, and that requires conversation, that requires sharing, that requires collaboration. So we try to create situations where it wouldn't be advantageous. Now in public school, when we're in one-to-one, we are tablets, and tablets are great for a lot of reasons. One, they have a camera. They have their own, basically, movie studio in their hands. They have access to all this music. They have access to everything. But you really can only do about one thing well on a tablet at a time, because multitasking is awful. You have to click a few times, flip back and forth. So what we see with the kids is one kid is doing the reading and getting the information and using it as a resource. Another kid is making the product, and they're trading the tablets back and forth all of the time. Because our goal is collaboration at the public school so that they learn to work in teams. So even if everybody brings one, it's creating activities that require them to work together, because community is such a value for us.
I assume that was the answer.
Yeah.
And do you have any, I don't know how to call them, just to secure so they don't go into other, like, prohibited websites?
We do have a filter at school. We use a sonic wall filter that prevents kids from getting into inappropriate sites. I will be honest, if we keep them engaged, they don't have time to, because they really want to be with each other. They're driven to be with each other. The way kid works one-to-one at home and way this. And even if they slide into their games, fine, as long as their product is done. If they want to go and play Geometry Dash, but here's my film for you, great. You guys have accomplished the film, we've seen it. I can have you do it, and you're all sitting there passing it back and forth, and we're showing each other. We're still working on that community thing. So we try not to hyper control it, but instead focus on, are we getting those clear learning targets done? Have we accomplished what we want to accomplish with you? And if we've made it interesting enough, and if we don't, so what can we do to make this something you guys would like more? We listen, and we steal their ideas. And I just brought that up. Let's be clear about what we're doing. When we say we're going to cover Psalms, what is it in Psalms that we want the kids to know? What is the important factors that we want them to have? When we do modern Israel, I don't go a lot into how the government works. They're 11, they're never going to remember, nor do they care. But I do go a lot into things that they can grab onto. But I have to be clear about what that target is going to be. Creating the opportunities for engagement, and here's the big one, allowing for these multiple products. And this is where we talk about teachers not being the experts anymore. We say that we want to film. Great, if you want to make a film, great. A kid could just use the camera for that. A kid can use Action FX and have all these different things. They can use Video Star and have music in it. I don't know how to use any of those programs. I will be honest with you. I don't care. You want to try something, go with it. You've got to create that. I care that you're trying it. I care that you're doing it. And don't ask me how to fix it, because I don't know. And I play with these things every day, and I don't know. Our teachers who don't play with these everything, they gotta get comfortable with the fact of, I don't know. You guys want to do a film? If not, write the story part, because I can help you with the story. I can help you with the rewriting of the story. That I get. I know how to use the pencil. I know how to use the paper. I can do that piece. But if you want to do this, go try. We were talking earlier about Toontastic and Puppet Pals. They're cute little apps that do these same types of digital storytelling, and they could be used for the templates just as easily. I don't know how to use either of them. The kids can figure it out. They can do it. They can be experts in it. I know how to create the opportunity. And here's the trick. I just have to allow for multiple products. And this is where I think our teachers get hung up. They have an image that we're all going to make the wonderful little challah covers today, and everyone's walking out with a challah cover. Or everybody's going to walk out having done it. It's going to look like this. And that's where we as leaders have to redefine the experience. Because it used to be 7 years ago, that's exactly what you did. Everybody's walking out with the same looking product. And now it's not, whether they're older or younger. We have first graders that go and start to create things. We have fourth graders that quite frankly turn their math in Minecraft. It's a great way to show iterations. You do the picture, here's 1, here's 3, here's 5. Congratulations, I've done them all. I've done them up to 300. You keep going, kid. Whatever it is, as long as it shows that concept. How do we start to accept that and let those variety things go? Because that comes back to that idea of creation. And now I'm owning your concept.
That's a quick question.
Absolutely.
Students will have different degrees of mastery of technological resources. Does that ever become an issue?
Well, it can be an issue if we're requiring them to do it independently. The moment we let them work collaboratively, and at school, and in general at school, for some reason at some point we say that you have to do this by yourself and be able to do it by yourself. And religious school, I tend to be able to get away with not having to say that most of the time. And I ask, who do you think might actually know the answers to this? Who's our expert that can show me? Because I've got not a clue here. Help me out. Does anybody know this? Because Tom's working on this over here. Who's got this idea? When we first started this as a principal out in Glenview with BYOD, that we opened it up for our fifth graders in our building to start with BYOD and see what would happen. And there's a little blonde kid, Nicholas, shortest kid in the class. First day he brings in his iTouch. Second day he brings in an Android tablet. The third day he has got an Ubuntu laptop. Ubuntu is one of these Linux systems that I had never used either. And I start to realize his dad is a developer and a programmer. Within a month, Nicholas had gone from being the least popular fifth grader to the most popular fifth grader, and kids were congregating to him because he could solve their problems. He was all of a sudden our expert in how to create things. He's also the person who put in work orders for when certain Wi-Fi nodes were not working in the building. He would just send them straight to tech because he solved that issue for us. And the trick is they start to self-identify if we allow ourselves to be the experts in learning and let them do that piece. And this is where when you talk about what you block on the network and what you don't block is important, because it's amazing how many kids will go to YouTube to find the answer and to get the step-by-step walkthrough that some other 13-year-old has put together for them. In fact, most of our kids watch more YouTube than they will do network TV now. And they're watching what they call Let's Play videos, which are different gameplays of other people showing them how to do walkthroughs of whatever. It's great because they're learning how to teach each other. They're learning how to access resources. They're learning how to share, and the fact that it's okay to learn from other people. They don't have to just go to a book. They're doing HGTV and Food Network in their own little version for free on YouTube. And they're creating those things. You have to live with a certain level of profanity that comes from 13-year-olds speaking to 13-year-old audiences, but they're finding it. Our simple solution to that, by the way, with the inappropriate words is, do you think that we should be having that in school? And if you really need that information, you want to put some earbuds in if you think that's okay for you. Because they're saying that those words at 8 years old on the playground when I'm not around. It's an interesting set of dialogues. But this gets us to the idea of what's the role of the student, and that it's theirs to investigate the topic, to identify their desired product, recognizing that we have not a clue of how to make that, and to find the tools to create the desired product. If you want to go there, fine, but how are you going to do it? I'd love to see what you're doing, but don't expect me to know how to fiddle that. I'll say, can you try this? What do you think this might do? And this is how you make your teachers feel okay. For them to recognize this is not their problem to figure out the answer. They just have to be open to the product. Say, does that accomplish the learning? I didn't know which video program kids were using yesterday. A lot of them chose iMovie in the end. And that one, I used it on my computer. I didn't bother to use it on a tablet, but they figured it out. Some kids did it with camera. A couple of kids did it with Video Star, but those were all the girls that wanted to dance 10 plagues through. That works for you. I can get the interpretation. I like the frog dance, by the way, ladies. Good job. It's not the teacher's responsibility to know all of the apps, tools, programs, and it's part of the students to discover these. And if you emphasize this with your staff over and over again, that that's your expectation, you're going to get a lot of wins. That embrace it, let them go with it, but make them solve the problem with it. And in doing that, they're owning the experience more because they've got to go find these things. It's amazing how many things that we will get emailed to us from our kids in the middle of the week from a Sunday school project. They're actually working on it in the middle of the week. Why? Because they're hung up on it being a problem and they want to solve it because it's their problem, not my problem. That's when you start to do that. It comes back to that same first precept of how do we get them to create? It's our job to facilitate the learning. And how can we facilitate it? Whether it is setting up the question and letting them go when they're here with us, or getting them to have the conversation when they're not here with us. And that's one of the things I wanted to do with us today is how do we get the conversation going on when we're not here, or when you have someone like my wife in the room who's not going to want to publicly be having the conversation with you when she's a student in the class. I embarrass her constantly because I'm the kid who will answer the questions and answer it. She's like, nobody's gonna be talking here, come on. How do we create that piece? As a teacher, we want to facilitate both of those kids. We want to set up problems, we want to create those opportunities, we want to create them when we're present, but more importantly, we want to create them when they're not with us, so that they can keep being that part of things. Imagine your kids who go off to college and once a month being able to virtually come together for a little conversation. They could all be at all their little colleges, and for them it's a chance to hook up with some kids that they wouldn't normally hook up with. Short, easy, something that we can come together with and be part of. And that's where some of our facilitation I would like to get us to today. And it's this idea between engagement and compliance. I want you to take a few minutes with your partner Alma, sit in here for and just talk about what does engaged behavior look like at your synagogue and what does compliant behavior look like in your classrooms.
No, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
So, yeah.
We're talking about the difference between engaged behavior and compliant behavior. What does that look like?
So, did you explain what that they both are?
I did it. I very intentionally did it.
So I was telling that the first thing is like having a classroom like this, is exactly participating, probably out of their desks, like standing up or on the floor, or so I see that something is happening to them. But sometimes it's happening right at me. And compliant behavior, there are times against it, and I mean, you know, if we are in a ceremonies. Well, so there are times for that behavior too, but
Trying to find
That's what I get.
So apparently, I tried to as much as to do it. So just use that for computer. There's lots of down. So I didn't realize that's where we'll look like that. So or you can do anything like that.
interest. Yeah, so again, you know, she's, yeah.
So they download that stuff to PDF.
Yes, and that's it. Nobody said combination of that. There will be some time.
You know what? I'm not gonna worry about it.
Sometimes
That I can solve later. I'm going to get to the assignment. I'm going to.
You were engaged. You're engaged to figure out how to download it.
But I was not compliant with trying to do the assignment. All right.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I find this is one of our biggest challenges. Engagement versus compliance. Recognizing what it really looks like and what we do.
Our partnerships now. I love watching Scandinavian schools at the way.
Yeah. The little beanbag chairs everywhere that they
But we designed my building to look at that, because that sends a message.
Almost never do our kids actually say yes. Outside of work. They're on calls, floors, doing whatever, because it's more conducive to collaboration. And that's the value we want, is that community and creativity. And it's a choice. If I want to dispense information, the seats we have are
We said there has to be some compliant time.
yes,
Because there has to be some information that has to be
the
delivered.
mini lesson.
But everything is
I'm
compliant.
making sure that I'm.
Or the flip classroom.
Yeah.
Watching at home, the big times
But that's very.
analyzing what.
Yes.
But, you
I
know,
asked the teachers to have centers.
Mhm.
My teachers have centers.
Small group learning experiences. Really hard to-
It's whatever, because that,
Joe.
you know, that makes them, when they plan the lesson, they listen to, they have to break down. Right? And so I have a question.
Is it?
All of it.
That everybody's calling.
How do you do that?
See, for me, that's what I want.
You know, I think
It's engagement is right. And that's an interesting.
I agree. And that's the piece. We talked about engagement versus compliance. Compliance, you just said engagement was internal, and it's very difficult to measure because it starts from within me. Compliance is I'm doing the activity or whatever was assigned with it. You brought up in your first conversation of engaged rooms tend to be louder rooms. You see more movement, they're being far more active, they're far more doing. I walk around with my principals all the time, and we're talking about what did they see in the classroom as a compliant or engaged behavior. 95% of the time, kids will be compliant. They'll do, quote, what you're asking them to do. They'll silently do it. They will complete the worksheet, they'll complete the reading, they'll complete the task, and they will never, ever think about it again. It will come in, and it's garbage in, and it will be garbage out, and I've moved through the experience. No one's had to do anything that requires me to want to be part of it, want to be part of the conversation. We start to hear engagement, get your kids into an argument, and watch them start to argue back and forth. There's passion, there's energy, there's excitement to it. When we try to get engaged experiences, it requires the kids to do a lot more with it than we're asking or we're starting with. And they tend to be very powerful learning experiences. When we get kids to create and we don't give them a whole lot of guidance, we start to get more engagement because they have to fill in all of those blanks and we're not doing it for them. When we did the original, okay, let's make the little, you're gonna have your comic strip and here's your 10 plagues. Every box is gonna be a plague. Yeah, okay, frog, blood, death, get the skull. There's not a whole lot there. When the more I get to own this piece, the more I have to do, the more I get into the discussion with friends, and we have to negotiate the film, we have to negotiate the experience, the more I have to own it, that's when we get engaged behavior. You brought up this very interesting thing of the furniture you have isn't great for engagement. And I said, it's great for dispensing information. I want to tell and lecture you about something. The seats are wonderful. I remember them when I was at BJE. They had a little flip over. Our arm thing, you'd be able to write right there. It kind of locks you into place. Still got them, okay. They're meant to give us compliant behaviors. I'm going to hold you here. I'm going to do, if I want you to move, you have to kind of wheel this thing around, and you're going to get there. You know? We want to get to, I prefer, and I think I'm hearing, we prefer to get down towards the engaged piece. And we want to create those experiences, and technology can help us without us even being the expert in it, that gets them into the dialogue, that gets the conversation rolling, that keeps going past our doors. I mentioned that, you know, we have kids on Wednesdays and Thursdays that will send us stuff because they're still thinking about it and they want to alter it, like it needs to look like that. They're starting to own that experience. That's what we're going for. And this is another great talking point with your teachers, is to get them on that discussion of, is your class being compliant now, or are they being engaged? And you brought up this idea that there are some points that we need to be compliant. We need to get them the basic information. We need to give them what I call the mini lesson of jump there. You brought the idea that sometimes we could do it through a flipped lesson, where we do a 4 or 5 minute film that they've gotten and they can get the information and go. And that's a choice, depending on the connection that you want. But we have to have some compliance to get them going. But after that, we want to move into this engaged phase that they're going through. And what I want to show you is this little film about how kids see what we hand them.
Joe, what are you doing there?
I don't know.
What's going on?
Well, this is some this is like foreign.
Okay. What was it like you said you were
Foreign too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So once we get more about Frederick Douglass, or maybe like see a larger image, so I double clicked on the picture, but nothing's happening. I can't really read the text because it's kind of small, so looking for the system preferences so I can make the text bigger. But
Laura, you said there was a problem involved?
You can't double click the image because it's not blue highlighted. The words you don't know, they're not blue highlighted.
well, wait, Cod just came. That's kind of
Yeah, what are you doing? But it's what?
It might be a link to click on it.
What's wrong, bro?
They're gonna hang up.
There's so many like.
Joe,
Drag that picture. You can save it. That could be useful. I don't even have a folder. Like if I drag it, it would just be like right here. How are you doing that? You like choosing this?
you just clicking through, what's going on?
It's like microtechnology. No, I'm just turning like
Okay.
but it's like microtechnology, so like everything is inside the page.
You didn't set the page? That's insane.
Sorry.
Well, we'll check back later to see if you fixed your problem.
It's great.
This is when you have high schoolers to create the answer to what they're seeing and how they might interpret it.
But Tora Laura now has, in some of their books, in their Artsena book for sure, because we use that, they have QR codes. So that the kids can take their phone, no matter what kind of phone they have. If they have a QR code reader, if they have the QR reader, then it takes them into the digital world of whatever that particular topic is. And they have quite a few. It's Artsena by Tora Laura.
We start each class in our Genesis and Exodus time in our afternoon, but they have a mission each time that leads them to a link, and then they have resources. So we use both QR codes, because some kids have QR readers on their other things, some of them bother. We use tiny URLs too, that same piece of connecting. Here's what the assignment would be. They can click on. Yep. Just click the tiny URL. Then dialog me here. And in this one, we have a little background. Sorry, this picture of Norman Rockwell. They're gonna do Genesis and Exodus here. And then they have to read and create an advertising campaign. Now, we wrote the word poster. Sometimes that means kids are doing a traditional poster. Sometimes kids use Picolage on this or Doodle Buddy, and they create their own digital one and email it to us. We just said the word poster, and they took it where they wanted to go with it. The point is, we wanted them to get used to the idea of the creation of the world. They could find it from multiple sources and get going. It QR codes work nicely, tiny URL, and they create a product. And when you get that product, that gets them back to that engagement level.
You really can't start doing this until the kids, like 5th grade is when they're starting to have.
You would think that, except I will tell you right now that our 1st graders do it. They just do it, you know. And we create a little sandbox time, and they go with it. Here in Deerfield, they're going one-to-one with iPads K1 and 2, and they're just starting to do it. Us in Downers Grove are doing the same thing, and lots of our kindergartners and 1st graders go, oh, wait, I'm supposed to do this, click, and go. They think this is natural and normal in their world. Our 1st graders have never lived in a world without an iPhone.
Even babies these days.
Yeah.
But the kids don't come to class with.
They are if we let them bring it.
The younger one,
If we let them bring it. Their parents will not do it unless we say it's okay.
But how many primary grade kids really?
People have 2nd graders bringing phones.
But
For sure.
the answer to this is very simple. In 3 years, they're all going to be one-to-one. So the question is, how do I scale my teachers so that in 3 years, when it's not going to be a question anymore, just bring your school device, we'll open our network. That it's one-to-one. And if you have a device now, you're welcome to bring it, and we're going to have some opportunities for it. But as it changes, within 3 years, it's going to be a non-question. Because you look around here, last year Deerfield was piloting, this year they're there. Highland Park is the same way. Glenview's been there 3 years ahead. That in 3 years, it's not going to be an issue. So
We can't bring those devices to our schools.
why not?
I don't know. So my granddaughter's in 2nd grade in Deerfield, and she has her own iPad.
Sure.
She could, if she was coming to my school, I could ask her to bring that to.
Children are invited, and this is what they're doing with it.
I didn't know that they could use those things that they get from school for other things.
Just let them on the network and go. And you know what we find is a lot of them, I mean, it's how we've conceptualized the world. As far as that, but we do have to make a case for parents that it's going to be valuable, that it's going to make a difference. And we're going to get somewhat there today. And I think there's some ways I want to get us to how do we engage kids a little bit differently, not just from product creation, but into the dialogue differently. Then we can also engage our parents eventually into some of that dialogue. And how we share our story and get people invested in that side of it too. Because I don't think it happens. I think parents are scared of them having more screen time until you sit there and then it's creation time and they're walking away with value. They need to see the value. They can't be just hearing about it. They need to actually see products that start to create that piece.
So in the younger grades, say 2nd grade,
Mhm.
use a child's Bible in
Mhm.
2nd grade, the first book. So to give them, because you figure they certainly are all on the computer at home, that we know for sure.
Mhm.
Even if they don't have their own device,
Mhm.
they have a, to give them some kind of a sign up like you were talking about, but instead of doing it with their classmates, they're doing it with their parents.
Exactly. Can you guys draw me a picture and email it in of God creating the world?
But do something so that the parents feel that they need to be a part of it.
Well, I think it's also that, and this is where Twitter is going to come in a second. I think that where you tell your story in very simple ways, and you can create that piece where it can be really powerful, and eventually get them into the dialogue and be collaborators in the conversation too. And I think there's a journey to that, but I think it can be that piece. I think it could be also kids are in class, they're making a song about creation, and then they're using GarageBand to do that, and we just hit record, and and they go home and they hear the song. They make that video, the kids walk out, and the first thing they do show their parents when they're walking outside is, check out my video. They just show it to them because it's there and they're proud of it and they're excited about it. And apparently I've timed out on this one there. That those types of things, when we started the Minecraft thing, you better believe that that made every parent nervous about kids doing Minecraft in Sunday school. Until they said my kids spent hours on a lot. And they're looking up pictures and they need pictures of my computer from my lot because they're building the Minecraft world on the other one and they're looking over the whole time. That's when they start to realize it's crossed their world. And getting them, when they see that, now it's meaningful, now they're seeing the power of it. So it doesn't have to be them just creating it with me as a family, it can also be them walking home because guess what, that's a couple $100 device. You better believe it's going back into mom's hands when you get out the door. Show me what you did. That's where some of the power can really be. Let's bring us back here. And I brought up this idea of Twitter. How many of you guys have used Twitter before? Or used the idea of back channel conversation? Anyone? Mm-hmm. Edmodo is a great place to create a class. It's free. There's a privacy piece to it that's really nice. Anyone try Twitter at all?
With a class? With
a class, by yourself, for your temple, for your religious school. Anybody been there at all with Twitter? A little bit. Okay. Twitter is this unknown gem. Everybody knows of it. Everybody's seen the hashtag thing, and it's got probably 20% of the users that Facebook does. I've heard of it, but I don't tweet. I don't understand how that tweet world works. Yet it's terrific for having conversations and sharing stories and not making you write a lot. It's limited to 140 characters. And a lot of the reason that our teachers don't like to use newsletters is it requires a lot of writing. I have to think my way through. Well, Twitter, I put a picture there, put one line, I put it out, and they see what's going on. And I have a couple of those, and all of a sudden I've got more value out of it than I have as a newsletter. Yes?
Twitter's grown, isn't it?
Yes.
Lately, I've noticed my own kids are they're teenagers. Teenagers are on there a lot, and they use Facebook.
Kids don't go to Facebook. You get an account at 13, so you can see what pictures your parents are doing, and then you get off of it, kind of with it. Kids absolutely want nothing to do with it. They like Instagram, because they get to create photos of themselves and share how they see the world. They like Twitter because it's like having a rolling ticker for newsfeed and seeing what's going on. And kids kind of get into it, or they kind of get, but they can make comments on things. And when you're 12 years old, you like to make comments. You just don't want to have to own those comments too much.
Has it been slow growing? I mean,
consistent growth. Yeah. One time, 2008 or so, kind of a thing. Yeah. And it really is growing a lot in education. And education and in sports and in entertainment are the three areas where Twitter is growing a ton. In those three fields. And you got to think, why in sports, why in education and entertainment would those three have something in common? Well, sports, okay, because there's things changing all the time. It's a way to get articles and to connect with the athletes. Entertainment, same thing. It's ways to find out what the entertainers are doing and to connect with the entertainers. Well, education, we want to create connections. We want to get out information and we want to create dialogue. And so it's very natural that it would fit in to those same realms. It's great because you can write very short things, yet get a lot of information out. And it's what they call back channel conversation. The conversation that's happening outside of our formal conversation. Now, how many of you grew up in the time of paper notes? I used to fold them up in footballs and send them across the room so my friends would get them. Some of my wife was probably better at just passing it along. That's a back channel conversation. We wanted to do it, we've always done it. What's happening without the teacher? Well, Twitter is a great way to have the same conversation where I may be sharing the information for you, but you can all still be talking while I'm having this conversation. And we see classes that starting at the middle school and high school, they're starting to embrace this in their classroom. They create a classroom hashtag so that when the teacher's talking, the kids, like my wife, who don't want to make a comment in front of everyone else, just kind of start asking questions, making comments, and answering each other in the background. It's called a tweet chat. It can happen, and it's a great way for them to start to use those devices while we're still trying to get some of the information out and about. So,
Give us an example.
I am going to give you an example. I'm going to bring up a program called TweetDeck. I can find it here. This is TweetDeck. The TweetDeck, let me make it a little bit bigger, is a way to have, is a program that runs with Twitter accounts. And it basically collects all of the tweets that might be going out there. So anybody I follow is on my home piece. And I told you I like sports, and you can see apparently the John Fox football press conference is going on now, so it's filled with all sorts of sports stuff right now. And later in the evening, tonight at 9 o'clock, IL Ed Chat will fill this up, and there'll be all sorts of Illinois educators chatting about something. But what I want to do is actually do a hashtag search. And we'll see, hopefully he's done it. Bronchi, hashtag Bronchi second. Let's see if Chris has done something lately. And Chris Bronchi is a high school English teacher, freshman in high school. And what he does is every hour he has a hashtag for his class. And when they're doing things that are collaborative dialogues, he puts them right in here. And we could follow up, and I'll just add a column for him right now. And here are the different tweets that are going on about his within his second grade class about different things. And as he's talking, he will have kids and different experts actually come and join his class at different times.
Second grade or second?
This is second hour. He's a freshman English teacher. So he works with 13 and 14-year-old kids. But they'll make different comments about things and different things. Apparently they had a guest speaker at some point with Barry Side. Like here's Maggie having a conference, and there's a time capsule thing. Here's another group this, and you can see kids just adding comments in on the hashtag. And so they'll be having this side dialogue or back channel conversation during the class, typing in there as he might be sharing things, and he'll have this going on one of his tabs so he can see it on the screen as he's talking. Like, oh, that's a cool idea, very nicely, Kyle, and they'll keep going like that. Or that's something. Let's talk about this one. So they'll be having their conversation while he's having a conversation.
So the kids are seeing these up on the screen.
And they're seeing it on their devices and typing along as they're having the conversation, because just like we used to doodle in class, he's now having this dialogue, but it gets a different group of kids. The kids that don't want to necessarily talk in front of the group. The kids that might be embarrassed about what they're saying are often more comfortable typing away at the exact same. They're fine with that. I mean, I'm not going to remember who CNYS2461 is. But that's this person's Twitter account, and she's adding in. And clearly she knows what's going on because it's in the class conversation. It's a great way to get some of our dialogue going on and get kids going through it. And like, you might be talking about Maimonides and having some conversations, and there's 3 kids like me in the room that want to have the dialogue. Well, 7 kids, can you believe he's still talking about this? We've got that down. Don't write that on there. They can go, oh, and that's what people are thinking, and we move on. But it's another way to get more involved.
Sometimes there are requirements for each student to participate in this way, aren't there? Because what if it's the child that doesn't want to participate out loud, they don't want to participate in this way, either, to express themselves in front of people when it's up on the screen.
Well, it can be, but we actually don't create requirements for it.
So I think
it tends to be more challenge by choice, but it builds in. And what we find is that some kids want to just right away. And we do the same, we do a similar thing actually with our school district with teachers. We try to just create it to be a cold discussion where eventually you want to make your first comment. And it doesn't happen right away. It may be going on 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 sessions, and all of a sudden, I add something in. Where it's, what if we did this? Somebody simply puts their toe in the water, but you get 3 or 4 or 5 people that start to have the conversation. And if you start to create a culture of this, that's when we start to see all those devices are now, instead of me texting my friends, I just made a forum for them to be texting each other in the class and said it's okay. And hence, if you keep doing it fast enough, I'm not paying attention because I'm still talking to you, and occasionally I'm looking over here because my dialogue is still with you. The nice thing we've seen with some of these things like this, is that all of a sudden we get snowed out. Kids are like, hey, do you want to have a chat with us? Because they're still looking to be with each other. And they start to create it because they want to have the dialogue. They want to be a part of it. You take that, and we talk about some of our senior youth group kids, and they're moving off to college. You could create a once-a-month chat where, hey, we're going to get together and talk about, I might be at Grinnell, and you might be at Oberlin, and you might be at NYU. Doesn't matter. Hey, you know, it's going to be 8 o'clock on Monday night. We're all getting together. We're going to chit-chat together. And we've created a Twitter chat room, essentially, by just creating a hashtag and letting it go. They created the hashtag for OK Seconds. We had one that we did on Saturday. We had 300 educators come together. We had Samurai Camp.
I love the conversation about the squirrel.
Linda.
What about the kids who don't have a device? Because this is like one-on-one kind of stuff. If they don't have a phone, if they're sitting in class, they can't participate then.
Next to somebody who does. Put the device in the middle.
They have to be 13 to have a Twitter.
No, they do not. Twitter is the one that does not have an age limit on it. Yeah. They try to filter out if somebody reports naughty stuff, they kick the people off. That's, I mean, just basically been their things, and they don't collect directory information, so they don't know whether you're 13 or not. So they're not collecting private information, they're not distributing private information, so it's unlike Facebook that's trying to find everything out about you. Twitter's just kind of creating, yes, they do. They're creating a forum for that conversation kind of thing. I personally use an app on my iPad called Twitterific. I pay $2.99, and that means I don't have to see Twitter ads, which makes me very happy. I use an app. This thing we call here is a thing called TweetDeck, which allows me to follow certain hashtag conversations and be able to follow them in columns in a way that's organized. So as I said, when we had our conference of 300 people on Saturday, everybody was tweeting on Samurai Camp, and we could follow their whole dialogue throughout the day, and people who were interested just added ideas of what they were seeing. I created one for us today, and I was hoping to spend a little time on, how much time do I have, Linda?
11:30.
11:30. Trying to get you guys to be able to create a Twitter account so that you could try this a little bit on your own. And I created a little hashtag for us to play around with maybe between now and then called JTeachMJLC, Marshall Jewish Learning Center. So that maybe over the next month we could try to share some ideas back and forth where we came together. And I'm going to give you an opportunity over the next few Monday nights to see one of these chats in action with adults through ILAD chat. And we'll talk a little bit about this. So I'm going to get you all to get on Twitter and create your own Twitter account, and we'll help you do that. And then we'll kind of get things, and we'll talk about between now and next time how to make some of these powerful for your kids, for your learning, and create some for your own learning piece. So go to twitter.com and try to create your own Twitter account.
If we have one, we should just look for you.
Yep.
Right?
If you have one, if you go to, if you just search, if you have one, just search this hashtag, JTeachMJLC, and I'm going to be the only one on the hashtag, and that's how you can find me.
There you are. and I could follow you.
Absolutely. And you can say, you can either make your own tweet saying, learning about Twitter, and you can put hashtag JTeachMGLC, and I'll be able to find you and just follow you that way.
All right, so now I want to make a comment on there. I mean, I see teach MJLC. I don't tweet very often, so now if I want to make a comment,
You're gonna just hit
oh,
compose.
there's.
Yep.
JTeachMJLC.
We were inventing the hashtag this morning very quickly. You get 140 characters. Okay, you're gonna want to go actually to Twitter first.
Oh, I see.
You should write down and show up.
If you come, now you just leave yours, so we get, yours.
You signed for it?
Oh, so maybe
You
I'll,
see yours.
although shouldn't it be all the way at the top?
I did.
Oh, you didn't put hashtag?
Oh, I
JT. When you type things, if you wanted to go into this column, you have to put at the end, or anywhere in your statement, hashtag, because that allows it to search for it, JTeachMJLC. And when you do get it, it should pop right up in there.
Hashtag JTeach.
And that's one of the nice things that you can see from TweetDeck, and there came David's right there. Very nicely done. And the moment you guys get out there, it pops right in there.
It's not popping in on my desktop.
Because I think because you're
Mine didn't come
on.
up on yours.
I don't understand how to do it.
See now, because I found you refresh it. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
And then it is this stuff.
No, we're learning. It's baby steps.
Mine came up on mine, but still not coming up on there.
Switch out.
And how do you get to, how do you get to again? How do you, what is that?
Let's go.
Okay.
I don't have it. Well, it says my emails are.
Just skip all that right now.
Go ahead, refresh, see what happens. Should pop up.
So what do I do? Just,
There you are. No. And step.
put it in.
There, and you're up there
Yeah,
now?
I see that.
Perfect.
Now, if I put something up on Facebook right now, I put the hashtag, pull up.
The hashtag is connected to Twitter. Facebook has its own little hashtags things. So
So I
So-
can put this hashtag on,
you can put that hashtag anywhere you want, but it would not be, it won't come straight into TweetDeck with that hashtag. TweetDeck only monitors Twitter.
but
There's
it would
some,
come up on that page. It would come up on in Twitter on the JTeach MJLC set page.
not if you put it just on a Facebook post. Facebook runs its own system, Twitter runs its own system.
But when I see people
You can,
tweeting on Facebook, are they?
they have an app that's doing both. They're writing it in something and it's sending it to their Facebook and sending it to Twitter.
But that's something special you have to set up on. your-
Depends, it depends on your device. It's not through Twitter, they have a third-party program that's doing it. So maybe they're using, like I use something called Pulse to share articles with. And so when I read it on Pulse, I can send it to both my Facebook and to Twitter. It'll send out two messages, one,
But when I see people doing that.
Yeah.
Isn't necessarily coming through on Twitter.
exactly.
And it's, what did you say, 140?
You get 140 letters. So when you start to write a post, like for example, welcome to Twitter. Do you see how I have a number right down here? It's just counting down how many characters I get.
And then it stops when you get to 1.
Exactly. Well, you get a negative and you have to realize you have to shorten it.
Okay, I sent something, but it's not showing.
Since it's moving slowly for me too. There we go. And you put one up and you don't see it up there yet?
I do it from here.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And let me see, we go to your phone. Let's see which one you, oh, it doesn't say which that you tweet.
So wait, do I do it from here or from here?
Do it from here.
Yeah, well, I did it.
Okay.
And then okay, so.
You can get people to follow.
Now you're gonna do,
2, 3, yeah.
so now you're gonna do hashtag
Oh,
JTeach
oh, I
MJLC. And now you see how it should just come up right there. There we go.
Thank you for introducing me to it.
And somehow I lost Mindy's, I think I lost yours in there. It was here, no, it was not here.
Oh, was there?
I was gonna say, I saw it earlier. That is really weird.
Yeah, was there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for this time.
Look at your home and see if yours came up. Did something accidentally delete your tweet? Because you can't delete your own tweets.
That's good to know.
Now, David, you brought up this idea of losing control of the conversation. And there's some ways that people use to get control of conversations. And one of the things they do is they create a set of questions for Twitter. They'll do Q1 is this and Q2 is that. That's one of the dynamics we talk about. How do you create a class discussion that we're going to be able to show you next time? Really, how do we foster this conversation? How do we organize it in a way that makes sense and people to be part of it, kind of thing. Now, the great thing, as you can see, is this starts to become a running record. So if you create your hashtag for your congregation or create a hashtag for a class, all of a sudden you're going to start to see, Alicia, you came up, maybe you have to confirm your accounts via your email.
It still shows me.
Because Alicia was here and not here. It seems really odd. Does it show up on yours without TweetDeck? Yeah, I was about to say that was way too many characters for that piece. But it will come through. I think you probably have to check your accounts on if they're new accounts in email to make sure they're confirmed first. Probably. To make sure you're a live person.
Okay. Question. I have a teacher actually who wants to do like a Facebook page for his class. What would be, can you tell me a little bit about what would be the pros and cons doing like Twitter or the Facebook for the class? And also my responsibility as well, but I mean, he wants to do one.
Edmodo?
Right. So this.
I just tried to tweet a couple of times and it hit 3 minutes. It's a technical.
Did you
Oh, you know what? I didn't put the hashtag.
Okay. The other thing is make sure you confirm your account if it's a new account through email, your email first. That might be the other piece of it. It's been so long since I actually had to create an account.
Yeah, you know, I think after I confirmed the account, then it disappeared. So I don't know. I tried to resend it, but it has to be something slightly different. So.
Okay.
It won't even look better. I have to confirm.
That as I'm helping people confirm and all that, this is part of the journey. Recognizing also So if you log in.
It says that I already have an account, which I know, I mean, I know what I've signed up for and not used, but I have never, so it says it's
But
resending.
Mindy's is back up now.
But it's not, I've never done it, so I don't know, so I'm waiting to see if it's gonna send me.
Oh, and it's saying it's on their
I
side.
understand.
It's not something with you.
Okay.
It's something they're having a problem with right now,
I'll see.
which is obviously convenient.
I had it off the cloud.
Oh, yeah, off the cloud would be better.
Well,
I
but
think
then I had to come on the cloud to get.
the right answer of what do you think is better? If you want the secure conversations and you don't want other people to see it at all, I think Edmodo is probably the best. Because it looks like Facebook, it lets you have secure conversations and nobody can be part of it, but recognize that kids aren't naturally gonna go there. That it is a foreign piece that they see as only for classwork.
That's what.
And absolutely.
So then that's.
But it's not gonna naturally be part of their life functioning and will only be used for that piece.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a different thing, right? Like if you're going, my Facebook or Twitter it's part of their social milieu all the time, right? But if you want a little more control and make it classroom, which may or may not, have, I mean, it may or may not be any kind of thing. I like the security. I like that Edmodo has no ads. They're not chat right. There's less distractions if you're really, and you can do chat similar, but yeah, there's pros and cons I think to every tool. But yeah, but it has a little more control than Facebook. But you're right, they don't do that unless it's part of the.
And
They may
it's
not
for
have
them.
it.
It's just for them.
But it does have a lot of security. Yeah, it has a lot more security.
I personally, the reason we like towards Twitter is actually we're trying to engage our kids in an audience beyond their personal world. And when we start to do these things, we often can invite experts into our conversations using Twitter. That somebody's being part of this, please come join it, or people will notice that we're having a conversation and they'll start to add on to it because they follow you for some reason, or they follow, oh, this looks like an interesting dialogue. So it's more of a public conversation, and it teaches kids to do a public conversation. Facebook isn't really good for conversations. Facebook's good for sharing an event. It's like a bulletin board. Twitter is really good at dialogue, and David's on there again. He's got things going. He's found the hashtag thing.
Mine says it's technically, something is technically wrong.
Yeah, we'll get you going here before we'll sit down to this. The neat thing about this is all of a sudden, because of the shortness of it, and really we see pieces where between experts and the individual person, there's no barrier anymore. We have kids right now in our world that tweeted questions to NASA, and like in an hour, NASA has an answer and tweets back at them. And they go, oh my gosh, there it is. Or there are a few rabbis that I follow, and they all of a sudden just throw something back in there. And if you're having a conversation, because they're just looking at their Twitter account, it's short and easy like a ticker. They go, oh, this is kind of neat, and they throw something back in. And so it has more of a public conversation, and embraces the fact that kids want to be thinking about multiple things. Here is this little thing, and I created Teach Like a Jedi over here. We can steal that piece. I like that. Yet I'm still following this conversation too. And so it's embracing that interest of multiple interests going on at multiple times.
How do you look for what you want? You just you have to know the name of whatever. So like,
Well, what happens, I think, is we start to find a few people that we want to have conversations.
I want to like the Today Show.
Yeah.
I love the Today Show. So I see things that they tweet.
Mm-hmm. I did it. Obviously, you can follow. You can see from my feed here. Here's a sports thing. Here's an education thing. Here's another sports thing. Depending on what goes on, these are things that people start to find their interest in. That's where the power is that you're coming to your interests and you're creating Judaism as one of their interests. That they start to create and be those conversations. Go ahead.
You get people to follow you. Like, is there an invitation like there is with Facebook? Is there?
You can. I think it usually starts with following other people and letting people know who you are. Like every conference here, I'll put my little Twitter handle at MattRich0722 for those that are interested in that kind of a thing. I think when we see it in classrooms with kids, We see that they find, and just as you were doing the setup, there were things that might interest you, and you can also look at your contacts, and it might look at who's in your contacts and say, these people are already on Twitter for you to follow if you want to do that from the find piece in Twitter. But I think it starts with your interest, and then you start to find, we start to talk about this following the hashtag. And I'm going to give you one that tonight's not a particularly Jewish one, although I do have a couple of Jewish ones. Nate at every conference creates a hashtag that they start to follow. We were at Nate 2014 last year that we were part of. But Illinois educators have one called IL Ed Chat. And every Monday night at 9 o'clock, they have a conversation about something related to education in Illinois. And you'll see, David, that it starts with a structure, that they usually have 6 or 7 questions. First question starts Q1, and every time you're answering Q1, you put A1 down. And then by Q7, and you see, they may be asking Q7, in some ways putting A4 down. That they're answering question 4 because that's where they're at in the conversation. And it's an hour dialogue that happens going on. And there are a lot of these chats that go on. And we have a hashtag for our district, DG58 Learns. And here's somebody, Emily Asher. There we go. Because I was notified that you mentioned me in a piece. Yeah, and there we go. And Ann following me, and you can see that these things there, and I can go in and follow Ann and follow Emily, and I can.
How do you follow?
You can follow me when I'm at 8 in a few weeks.
Yep. So I just hit when I see Emily's here, I can find out about Emily, and I hit the word would have been follow right here.
So can people like find you, like someone can find me, because I want to be kind of private, because can people find me?
They can
If they know your handle.
if they know your handle. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, one of the reasons we like Twitter is also it's a way to teach kids that everything they do is public on the internet, and always put stuff that's appropriate up there.
Yeah, no, for sure. No,
so even if they find you, what interesting things are they going to find? You said, hey, does anybody know how to use this on a smartboard? People will, by the way, give you an answer for that. But it's a repeat way to do it. Yes.
Everybody can see who they're following if they go. Like,
so if I were to go look at Emily right now. I don't know. So Emily said, I clicked on Emily. Who's you're following here? If you go look at me, because I might have a few more than Emily.
Well, and then should I follow every single person in my phone book?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You can always follow them, you can follow them and then unfollow them. Like, but when you look at this, and people look and go, okay, I'm following 1,146 people. Okay? Go enjoy looking through 1,146 people. Enjoy that. No one's going to bother to do that, and unless they're looking for people that are similar interests to them. You know? And so it's a great way where you're bringing things out there. Now, some people have public Twitter accounts and private Twitter accounts. I can only manage one in my life. So I said, you're going to find things about technology, sports, and education on mine. Congratulations. You know, and you may agree or disagree, but those are the things you're going to see there. Because I can manage one. Yes?
In terms of the culture.
Yes.
Of Twitter.
Yes.
If I put something out there, like, I have 2 chickens, I'm looking for somebody with, no. If I put out there some piece of information or a question, is the expectation that there's going to be instantaneous response to a response tweet?
Oh, no. Like, if you get, that's a terrific question. Somebody responds to you. Maybe I get to that today. Maybe I get to that in 3 days. Maybe the only response I hit is the little star here to say favorite, and they'll get an email back that Tommy favorited your tweet. That might be the only response they get at any point. It's like saying, hey, I saw this. That's what a little favorite star is. It's like the like on Facebook. But there's no the Twitter community in general tends to be a little cultish in the fact that they want to always welcome you in and just kind of accept you for who you are. That's really the general nature of it. They don't tend to, there's no, it's not like Facebook of, why hasn't people made comments on my post yet?
Okay.
It's like Pinterest.
Yes, it's very much like Pinterest. You know, come see my boards. Here's all my boards. I don't care if you open, I've got boards, kind of a thing. Yeah. Exactly, repin it on your own, kind of a thing. But if there's no expectation anyone's actually repinning it, then you're gonna do. So if you put it, sometimes I'll put a comment out there, nobody will write anything. Other times I'll put a comment, and then like seven people have comments right all of a sudden, and so it's kind of like shouting in the forest a little bit. But when you do it as a chat in class, the forest is all there, and that's when you start to see power because people want to have started the conversation, start to be part of the conversation. For example, Jill Maraldo, who is now, she's the former director of technology in Deerfield. She's now an assistant principal in Buffalo Grove. Tonight's topic on Illinois Ed Chat's about girls and the friendship drama. I'll bet you that's as true in our schools as it is in her school, kind of a thing. And so tonight at 9 o'clock tonight, there's gonna be a whole bunch of questions. And sometimes there'll be 4 people chatting on it. Sometimes there'll be 50 people chatting on it.
Now, is that a closed chat group?
Nope, it's open. So if you go on to TweetDeck or Twitter tonight and follow the hashtag ILAdChat, and I encourage you to do so, because it's a topic that might fit in with what you guys are doing, and it's a great way to see how a Twitter chat can go. Now, I do it from my computer on this program called TweetDeck. You use your handle to do it, but the difference is it makes a column that I will be able to follow with all of the different tweets that come on that hashtag, where David, you were having to pull down the hashtag to refresh on your iPad. Yeah. We'll just keep it going for you without having to do it. And this is what the people use for when they're trying to do a chat, this particular one. On my own device, I use Twitterrific, or you guys use Twitter, to follow just one set of things. But when I want to follow a column that's not necessarily my things, I tend to use TweetDeck. It's just an easier tool to do it with than what we see with just the Twitter app itself. But
Can I
it's
ask another quick question.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sorry, you guys. I know. I'm
No, you're asking the exact same questions everybody else is thinking right now.
All right. So one of the issues that I've got with technology is one of it's fear of losing control. And while I'm less concerned about that, I don't hire idiots. So I think that if somebody missteps a little bit, then we can say, all right, so they misstepped a little bit, but I'm not the higher authority. There's a whole there's an executive board at my synagogue that does not understand this at all. And if somebody tweets a joke that might be taken the wrong way, now all of a sudden I've got a huge issue where I didn't have one before. And so how does a school board, or how does that work?
Couple of things. If it's one of my staff or one of my kids, it's a very simple thing to delete the tweet. If I see it coming up, let's talk about this, we need to delete that tweet. We've got that coming through.
But who can do the deleting?
The original writer can do that. If there's something here where we notice something where we can say that somebody else adds on to something inappropriately onto your hashtag, you report the tweet. You see how I went down here?
Yeah.
And I hit the report the tweet kind of thing. Because that happens, and people put at Twitter all the time, a little at sign on Twitter, and say this is an inappropriate thing to send back to Twitter. They go quickly into those things. Because as I said, they try to keep this available for kids under 13. So they want to keep it clean type of a thing. So those are the types of conversations. And if I were talking to my board, there are a couple of things that maybe next time we want this sharing the story piece about how we start to create for our board stories using Twitter. And so they can start to see how we create messaging pieces. And there's a tool we can use called Storyfy that really starts to create some real powerful messages with it so they get used to that conversation and see where the value of it can be. While at the same time, I'm teaching the rest of this, the person who's being inappropriate, well, what's the value within our community? How do you want to express yourself? And having those conversations too. I will be honest, we have 5,000 kids and 350 staff members, and pretty generally in Twitter, we have not had a single problem. I can't think of one problem we've had. Because people get that it's public, and when they're ready to make the choice to bring in, they're making a conscious step so that they know that it's that public piece. The kids seem to get it, the teachers seem to get it, and they tend to be cleaner than they tend to be on other things. And in Facebook, I tend not to be because I still have this conception and belief that it's private. It's not, but I believe that it is. Twitter, we just start with the idea that it's public and open, and so people tend to act within that form.
So it fits really nicely when there's so many Jewish texts. We just almost about this privacy, not privacy issue. There's just texts about how we treat each other that work very well with how you talk or present yourself online. There's just texts about digital footprints. So you can actually turn that beginningness, right, into a very Jewish conversation about setting that up and setting up those controls. Well, right, and then there's a variety of ways, right, I mean, you can start there. Yeah, so you can, and like, I know you already have an acceptable use policy, but developing that kind of thing and having that out there, that can start conversation very well.
A couple things about account safety for your own accounts. One, anybody who is trying to sell you gear or diet things or anything, don't click the links. Two, nobody's talking bad about you on the internet. Don't follow the link to somebody talking bad to you on the internet, because immediately all of those, anytime you hit a link here, if it is a link that then tells you to log in, don't log in. That's a phishing scam. They're just trying to get your ID and password. Anytime Twitter wants you to log in, get out of Twitter, go to Twitter on a different web page and log in through that way. Because it's not that they have account security problems, it's that people give away their accounts and passwords all the time because they think that it's going to be, and people have made phishing scams that go through that. Nobody's talking bad about you. Nobody's trying to sell you body fat or diet supplements, kind of a thing. And if somebody does get your account, all of a sudden you post things about diet supplements, they all know that it's the hacking scam, and then just go and rechange your password and you're fine. The whole community gets it. They're not surprised because it happens to most everyone on there. Okay. The trick is if you ever want to log into Twitter, create a new web page and log in through that way so you know that you're going in cleanly to Twitter. The other piece is, as you guys see, that you guys came in with little eggs when you were a newbie. It starts you out with an egg. After that, we encourage people to hatch their egg and put an actual picture, because you'll see people that have all found their way over time, throw a picture of something there, and that's how all of a sudden you've hatched your egg, and then you're part of that piece, whether it's Jill has her and her kids, Midwest Principal Association has a bunch of books, Ed Camp 302 apparently has an apple with the 302. I've got my little headshot that my sister-in-law did. That we know you're new to Twitter when you have your egg. The moment the egg is gone, all of a sudden you're going to be able to do these things. And what you'll start to see is that you'll be able to follow each other and create your own little hashtags. Now, I will be honest, I'm going to show you a couple hashtags that were created this year. El Sierra 58, we have a new principal at El Sierra School, and he created his hashtag El Sierra 58. And this has been around for about 4 months now. And you can see he's put it up, but his teacher just retweeted this. Another teacher sat there, and they're using it to just share information out. Hashtags don't start right away with, oh, there's a ton of things in there. They build slowly over time. One person making a comment, another person starting to add in. When you start to do it, it's mostly a lot of publishing information, and then suddenly somebody asks a question, and it builds from there. So when you start to create a hashtag, or we look at the one that we created today, we started with one, and David's ready for lunch. I don't know what you're having for lunch. That's a really great question, though.
I was just throwing that up there as, you know, a class is going on and all of a sudden somebody throws out something that's completely what I like to call a dead dog story, and all of a sudden people are following the dead dog story instead of the Maimonides lesson that you talked about.
But as a teacher,
yeah,
I love that piece. Because I know I've hit the wall here and I've lost them.
Mm-hmm.
I have feedback now that I didn't have before. And I can say, so what do you guys think Maimonides would be choosing to eat? What would be available at his time? Because you know what? It is 11:40 something, and we've been here a long time, and I'm getting a little hungry. So what would be something Maimonides would choose? I've now got the feedback that I've lost my audience. And that's a really hard thing. But no. But it's a great piece, and that's where you talk to your teachers. They don't realize when this happens because they're still rolling. You know, it's the great Ben Stein thing. Anyone voodoo economics. You know, he's talking and no one's paying attention. We're going to keep using this piece, and I encourage you as you start to do little things at Twitter. I'll try to throw something up there each day on JTeach MGLC. MJ, excuse me, thank you. And we'll start to get our own little hashtag of something going for conversations that hopefully will start to involve the larger Jewish educator community here. That's our beginning of a hashtag. I encourage you to explore IL Chat. And next time when we're together in February, those of you who make it back, we'll use this as our hashtag for back channel conversation as we go into sharing our story and we start to create questions. David, these are the dead dog story is a great conversation for us to explore and maybe get more involved with as we think about the next month. If you have questions about any of this, as I said, I'm going to keep this up, the JTeach MJLC. I don't know why I got the G in there. And we'll answer them this month and a half over things. And hopefully over a month and a half, you guys decide to hatch your eggs. Thank you guys for sitting here for 2.5 hours with me. And
I have another question. I was going back to the Facebook page piece.
Yeah.
I see what Mindy put up and it made me think of it. If Mindy had put that same thing up on Facebook, because she puts your handle on, would that then show up on Twitter?
No. Those two don't naturally connect. It's only when we use a third-party program that we have an app. Like whoever wrote it uses a third-party program. Like
whoever wrote what?
If Mindy had, instead of writing this in Twitter, had wrote it in an app that will send it to both Facebook and Twitter, then it will go there.
So there's an app that
there are some apps out there that do that.
That you could put that it would go on
to both. Yes.
Is Twitter browser-based or is it?
There is not an app for it. Yeah, there's not an app for it. If you have an iPad, you can add it to your home screen, and it will go onto an iPad home screen. It's mostly computer-based because it's got a lot of, as you saw, I have like 15 columns going.
Do you use an app?
On my iPad, I use an app. It's a $3 app. It's actually free, but then I pay $3 to get rid of the Twitter ads because I don't like Twitter ads. Called Twitterific. And I did promise I would do
yeah, Twitterific is an app.
It's an app I use. And let's see. I promised you I would show you Reflector too, right? We'll bring Reflector up for a second. And Reflector does Apple TV type stuff for with a computer hooked up. And what I use is I will show you right here. We'll let it come up. I hit AirPlay, and when I hit AirPlay here at the bottom, then I can mirror. It will come right up in the middle. This is an Apple TV will do the same thing. And everything on my iPad is now on the screen. So there we go. And I use an app called Twitterific. You see it right down here with the bird. The people who make Twitterific
will do what?
And it's a way to do Twitter on my phone and things like that.
I see it right here.
Yeah. I use it for Twitter because I have Twitter always puts a lot of ads in your stream. And I don't particularly like ads in my stream. So instead I use Twitterific to be able to follow through all of the different things
that I'm using, I don't get any advertisements in there. And I just don't want the ads that come with any of that.
But will that set up those columns too?
No, to do that, I have to use TweetDeck or an app that I'm not very comfortable with, which is called Hootsuite. Can do it on, and that app will do it on the, yep. That does that also.
Oh, so Twitterific is really if you don't want commercials.
That's a way to get rid of advertisements.
Okay. So the other one is TweetDeck.
Yep. TweetDeck, what I did on my iPad is I simply added it to my home screen. And if I click it right up here, we're airplane right now, so you can see how it, although if I were to do it from an Apple TV, it would actually take the whole screen off.
Yes.
TweetDeck, this is me, I just added the same TweetDeck here to my home screen on my iPad. Get rid of the keyboard, and you can see the same columns come up. No. What I did was when I was in Safari, I hit the add to my home screen. So I opened this in Safari originally, and then like anything else, you can add it to your home. It's not an app, it's a website.
If I could get my Twitter account
Yep.
to work, which it doesn't seem to want to today, I would post a giant thank you to you, because this has been, I think, a really important morning. And I mean that with all of my heart, because I think we all have learned a different way to think about engagement. And that ultimately is what it's all about. And so I really thank you on behalf of everybody sitting here, and wish that we were doing the next part next week instead of in a month. But it's today's the 19th, so February 16th. You know you'll get emails from me, and I really thank you. I'll tweet it if I could get my tweet to work. Please, each one of you take some food because nobody ate. So.
I'm also here doing some teacher stuff on the, I want to say the 26th. There's something, maybe it's February 2nd, March 2nd.
February 2nd, March 2nd, and you have gotten, but you will get emails on that as well. Yeah.
So what you're gonna do, you don't need to download it. You can just do. Goes just go to tweetdeck.com, and it should be, you ought to be able to create a Twitter. Then you sign in with Twitter. Yeah.
Should I try and make it on?
Yeah.
You're on an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just download the Twitter app here.
Okay.
That way you can just skip the whole deal with whatever the craziness is on Twitter is. Just download that app and try to.
Okay, great. And one more question.
Yes.
This is what I want to think about. So who is this man that with this follows me? I don't know. Is he following me?
Well, we can find out what Mayor Tom is.